So it looks like Donald Trump has finally killed dropshipping with his newly implemented 10% tariff on Chinese imported goods. It's not the 10% extra that could potentially spell doom for all of us dropshippers. No, there's actually something that's potentially way worse than that. This one major change has the possibility to essentially change dropshipping as a whole as we know it, unless Trump decides to change his mind from one day to the other, which has happened before. But before we do get started with the main topic of this video, it is imperative that you understand exactly what a tariff is. Some people don't know what it is. You've heard this buzzword here and there. Everyone is saying it, everyone is talking about it, but most people don't really know how it's going to affect them as a consumer or as a business owner. So really quick, let's just check out this document directly from the White House. Don't worry, I'm not going to read over everything. I know you all get bored of that. So do I. It's just a couple of sentences. President Donald J. Trump has implemented a 25% additional tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico, keyword being additional, and a 10% additional tariff on imports from China. So for the most part, goods that you import from China, they're most likely going to stay the same price. The prices for them isn't going to change. The ones who are going to ultimately end up paying for this is going to be the company that imports those goods to the US. They're the ones that are going to be hit with the ultimately 35% tariff, because 25% is already being implemented to Chinese imported goods. So this 10% that everyone's talking about, that's being slapped on top of the 25%, ultimately making it 35%. Now, pretty much every single company out there, whether it be a big company or even us as dropshippers, as smaller businesses, we're more than likely not going to take that hit. We can, but chances are most people are going to end up passing this to the end consumer, which this is where things are going to start to get a little bit tricky because they're not going to be happy about that. So how is this going to work? Chinese made goods, more than likely the prices are going to end up staying the same, but we're going to end up paying more money for them. So really, it's not the way that most people are thinking. Most people are thinking that when something gets imported, the ones that are going to be paying for that are going to be the Chinese suppliers, and then they're going to pass on those costs to the business. That's then going to trickle down to the end consumer. No, Chinese goods, they're going to stay the same price. But again, this is always subject to change, so just keep that in mind. So let's say I'm importing a few of these different Bluetooth thermal printers to the US. Originally, I would be paying 25% on every single unit that comes in. So let's say each one of them is valued at $30, then I'm going to be paying about $7.50 per unit. But now with the extra 10%, instead of being those 25% at $7.50, it's going to end up being 35%. And what I'm going to have to pay is going to be about $10.50 per unit. So for the company that's importing the products, the end cost is what's going to end up being higher after they pay for the shipping and after they pay for the tariffs. So as you can see, the original sourcing price, that stays the same. It's the end price that is going to increase. Now, another thing that could potentially change would also be the shipping prices from the Chinese suppliers. While their goods are probably going to stay the same in terms of the pricing, the shipping prices might change because of the changes stateside. Now, whether it's the end consumer that ends up paying for these extra costs or the business owner that ends up absorbing these costs, that's another thing that we're going to have to deal with, because at the end of the day, the higher prices could potentially impact our sales. As I keep saying, this is subject to change. Trump is one that is pretty much known to change his mind all the time from one day to the other. If the conditions are right, these tariffs might just completely go away overnight. We're dropshippers. Instead, we rely on the minimus exception. Did I say that right? Minimus? Minimus? Yeah, minimus. So pretty much what this says is that anything that's under $800 that's being imported into the US is duty free. We don't have to pay anything upon arrival. We don't have to wait for it to get processed and charge whoever it is for those extra tariffs. If it's under $800 and we're importing it to the US, then we're good to go. It can go directly to the consumer, and that's it. Up until this point, that's how dropshippers have been so successful, because of this exception. Chances are most of us aren't selling $800 plus products to our consumers. I mean, some of us might be with high ticket dropshipping, but on average, our orders typically are going to be less than that. And that's one of the big things that's been making dropshipping so successful and easy to get into, and ultimately profitable. So we've never had to worry about paying for duties, but that's going away. This exception is no longer valid, and that is what's really going to start cutting into our profits. So as I'm reviewing this video to make sure all of the information I'm giving you is accurate, the minimus exception has been reinstated, meaning anything that's under $800, you're able to import duty-free without any issues, just like we were in the past. But wait, this is not necessarily a cause to celebrate, because remember what I mentioned earlier? everything is subject to change. So the same way that it was temporarily reinstated, by the way, this is temporary because nowhere did anybody say, or nowhere did Trump say, that it is indefinite. Right now, it's currently on pause, or the suspension of the exemption is on pause. So a week from now, a month from now, a couple days from now, it could be reinstated again. Take this time right now to start diversifying your suppliers and potentially even diversifying your markets. Now, there's no clear answer as to why this was paused, but more than likely it's simply because of the mess, right? Everything was going crazy. USPS didn't know what to do. They shut down packages coming in from China. Packages are being backed up at the border. So obviously something needs to be figured out. So until this is figured out, we have a little bit of time to be able to figure ourselves out on what we're gonna do and how we're gonna go about the situation. So as always, stay updated with the news, keep an eye out, check online news sources every once in a while. And of course, make sure to subscribe to this channel so that way you're always up to date with the latest dropshipping news. All right, back to past me, giving you a couple of extra tips that can really help you out going forward. So it's not necessarily just gonna be something that's imported to the US, you pay for it, and that's it. No, there's a few different ways that this can be implemented, all of which are still pretty much up in the air because this was such a sudden change that a lot of government agencies like the USPS, they're still trying to figure things out. A couple days ago, they just completely stopped accepting packages from China, and 12 hours later, they resumed operations. Again, this is something that was very sudden and everyone's still kind of trying to figure out. So for one, free shipping from China might not be free anymore. There might be an actual cost associated to it to offset these prices. Or let's say if you're not getting free shipping, but you're getting some pretty cheap shipping, maybe you're paying $1 or $2 for shipping, this might also increase. This could be instead of $2 for shipping, it could be $5, it could be $6, it could be a little bit more. Or shipping can stay the same, but some prices might be increased. You know, kind of like the way that we include our shipping prices into our just base price and we offer free shipping. Yeah, something like that. So let's go back to our example for our thermal label printer. This, typically, I wouldn't be paying anything to import this into the States because I'm only importing one of them. It's $30. No duties, nothing, straight to the consumer. Now, it will be subject to that 10% extra tariff. Now get this, even if your customer decides, I don't want this printer, and they return it back to the manufacturer in China, you're not gonna be getting that 10% back. That money belongs to the government. You're gonna be out 10%. So if somebody returns a product, that 10% is gone. So essentially, one return is going to equal 10% less. Now, this also applies to any imports that are going to be exported from the US. So a lot of people import products to the US to then have them exported. And up until now, the tariffs that were being charged on those imports, they were able to be refunded once the products were exported from the US. But that's not the case anymore. So how is this going to affect us right now? Because that's what we really need to know. How is this going to affect us in real time? And what can we do about it? For one, we're probably going to have some potential shipping delays. As dropshippers, things happen. This industry gets disrupted every once in a while, and the supply chains, they sometimes get disrupted. It's something that we ultimately need to get over. But it's very important to understand that these are just temporary. Remember what I told you about USPS? They stopped accepting Chinese goods into the US. These are things that are very sudden. These were things that just happened out of nowhere. Well, not necessarily out of nowhere because, these were expected, but with just simply not enough time to be able to prepare, whether for businesses or government agencies like USPS. So everyone is still figuring this out. Another thing that we really need to keep in mind is going to be our customers. What's going to happen with them? They're also going to be expecting longer shipping times. Some products that are at the border, they might stay there for a little bit longer than usual. In this case, it's very important to let your customers know what's going on, whether that be before you make the sale or after. How do you tell them before? Easy. Write a note on your store. If you're dropshipping on Shopify, then simply put a little banner on there that says, currently we are expecting delays because of these new imposed tariffs and potential shipping delays because of things being backed up at the border. Use ChatGPT to make it nice and fancy and make it understandable for your customers. Now, for people that have already placed an order, it's important to send them an email letting them know what happened and letting them know that there's potential shipping delays and that unfortunately, because this is something that's out of our hands, this is something that has to do with the government, there's really nothing we can do about it. But it's very important to let our customers know what's going on and keep them updated so that way there's no problems later on. That way they don't come back and say, hey, where's my product? You never told me about this, and really just avoid any conflict or any commotion. So what can we do? Well, there's a few different ways that we can tackle this. For one, we can ultimately increase our prices. This way, the price increase goes down to the end consumer. Now, chances are most companies, this is what they're going to end up doing. Whether it be dropshippers or major big retailers, if a company or business is importing their products from China and they're getting slapped with these extra tariffs, this is going to trickle down to the end consumer. This is going to be the most likely end scenario across the board because ultimately, realistically speaking, customers at the end of the day, they're going to get used to the higher prices. It's just something that happens. Inflation has been happening. Prices have been rising everywhere. Look at eggs. Eggs are like $25 a carton now, and people are buying it. And little by little, it's just going to become another part of life. It's going to be something that is going to essentially be forgotten, and people are just going to get used to it. Now, the other option is to take the hit yourself. Now, in order to do this, you are going to have to be making a high enough profit in order to justify this. So let's say you're selling with maybe 20 to 30% profit margins. If that's the case, then taking that hit is not going to be worth it. Your profits are going to go down from 20% to 10%. And that's going to be very, very minimal, especially if you're selling low ticket products. If you're selling a product for $10 and you're only making 10% in profits, then your profits are going to be minimal. They're going to be diminished. So in this case, if you are willing to take that hit yourself, my suggestion would be to start selling higher ticket products, or start selling products that can give you a higher profit margin. So that way, it's going to be a lot easier for you to offset that price. If you are dropshipping with a reliable supplier, then more than likely you are going to have enough wiggle room to be able to offset that price. More than likely, most people across the board are just going to end up charging their customers a couple bucks extra and then offsetting their prices that way. Now, the other option that you have is to diversify. And not just diversify in one part. There's a lot of different things that you can diversify. For one, you can diversify your market. So if you're primarily dropshipping in the US, then this is going to affect you. But if you start dropshipping in, let's say, Australia, Canada, the UK, then you're going to be fine. These places are not subject to this 10% tariff. It's only going to be in the US. And every other market out there can be just as profitable as the US. Yes, the US is the largest market, but again, it's not the only market. Besides that, you can also diversify your suppliers. So instead of only going with Chinese suppliers, then you can start looking at suppliers that are located in other countries. There's suppliers that are located all over the world, whether that be in China, India, Pakistan, anywhere that you look, there's going to be some sort of supplier that you can source from. The only thing is, in this case, is it is going to take a little bit of digging to be able to find these suppliers. But it's nothing that a simple Google search or a couple of prompts into ChatGPT or even DeepSeek can't help you with. Now, besides overseas, you also have local suppliers. So with a local supplier, or a manufacturer located in the US, you probably will be paying a couple of bucks extra because, again, it's being manufactured in the US, but you are going to have a few extra benefits. For one, product quality, more than likely is going to be top tier. Two, shipping speeds are going to be a lot faster as well. So this is actually a very viable option. While everyone else is going to be increasing their prices, importing products from China, you can increase your prices a little bit and keep the production and manufacturing local. Now, there's a few different options that you have to locate some US suppliers as well. And some of these US suppliers actually import their products from China, but they store them in a local US warehouse. Now, any imports that are going into those warehouses are ultimately going to be subject to these tariffs. But there's also a lot of other companies that just keep their warehouses in the US. And in order to find shipping like this, it's pretty easy. Let's say you're using AliExpress. For AliExpress, all you have to do is go over here where it says local shipping, and you're going to be able to find products that are shipping within the US. So check this out. Here you have a bunch of different products that specify ships from US. So that's a huge help. Now, not just that, but you can also use AutoDS. So in the AutoDS marketplace, you have the option to filter your suppliers. But not only can you filter by the type of supplier that you're looking for, like let's say the AutoDS private suppliers, AliExpress, Amazon, or anybody else, you can also filter by where they're shipping from. So here you can see an entire list of different places where our suppliers are shipping from. So you can source your products from directly the US, from China still, Germany, France, Italy, the UK, Spain, and Canada. Now, the third thing that you can do is simply going to be to diversify the products that you offer. So instead of just simply selling lower ticket products, start selling higher ticket products. Sell products that have the potential to sell at a higher profit margin. These products are everywhere. A lot of people think that they're hard to find, but just looking through some of the different options that you have on the AutoDS handpicked product section and the AutoDS marketplace, you're going to find tons of different products that can easily give you a 40 to 60% or even more profit potential. So that way, even if you do take the hit of the 10%, then it's all right. It's really not going to be affecting you that much. You're still going to be making a pretty good profit. So what's your plan for this? Let me know down in the comments below. If you found this video helpful or informational in any way, please make sure you smash that like button and make sure you subscribe so that way you stay updated with any new developments in the tariffs or in anything else that's going on in the dropshipping world. Huge thank you to everyone for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. My name is Mario with AutoDS. I wish you all nothing but success in your dropshipping businesses, and I'll catch you all next time.